Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking with me, Denise Mejia, in Delaware, USA.
And me, Martin Ferber, in Preston, UK.
This weekly podcast is for anyone and everyone who'd like to know more about the fascinating subject of hypnosis and the benefits it offers.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist.
I'm a retired medical doctor turned consulting hypnotist.
We are Two Hypnotherapists Talking.
So let's get on with the episode.
Episode 11, Denise. We're here.
Hello.
We're back. What are we talking about this week?
I think we should talk about all the changes that people have to make in their lives and how they can help themselves by using hypnosis.
Yeah, or what kind of resistance they have to change.
Right. Well, we all know we've got resistance to change. Possibly because we don't realize change is actually possible. I'm too old to do this now. I'm too set in my ways. Well, if it's something you really want, you're not.
Yeah, but also, we do perceive change as a threat, don't we? Subconsciously.
Yeah, of course, because your subconscious wants you to stay exactly the way you are because I know what's going on.
Because it's
not out of malice in any way. It's supposed to be protecting you.
I always say about depression, when people are depressed and they stay in bed and they pull the rug over the head. Mm-hmm. And, if that's what kept them safe one day, they're just tempted to repeat the process the next, aren't they? Even though they know they're miserable, it's not doing them any good, really. The mind tries to protect us, doesn't it, by doing the same thing.
And it doesn't have to be as dramatic as that. I think most people, if they were able to think, because if you're seriously depressed, it's really hard without another party helping you.
Absolutely.
Helping you to recognize that there's hope, which is outside our scope, because that is when a psychologist or a psychiatrist comes in. But once somebody knows that they want to change, before we have a little bit of a conversation about what we're going to talk about, you mentioned that weight loss is one of the biggest. It's here we are at the end of the year. People are all going to be trying to lose weight in a few months. It is one of the things.
Drop a dress size for Christmas.
Yeah. Well, you don't talk about it on Thanksgiving Day, so that won't work. But it does make you perhaps think about it. But it is something that you feel like you're being sabotaged. And obviously, since you are the one that controls what goes into your mouth, it is you that's doing the sabotaging.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, we're the risk of going all Freudian here, aren't we? And analysis, etc. But it's one of those things.
He was a hypnotist. That's okay.
Okay. It's one of those things, though, isn't it? Because every single weight loss client I've ever spoke with, or weight management client I've ever spoke with, they all say, "I want to lose weight. I want to eat less. I want to do more exercise." I say, "Go and do it then."
Yeah.
Because logically you want to do it, but what is it then? As I say, at the risk of going all Freudian, sort of start to analyze deep down. It's the subconscious things, isn't it? It's the things. I always find it's the things we do automatically without thinking about them first. So
how now, as a solution-focused therapist, since you don't do, regressing back to cause.
No.
How do you handle those negative voices that people have? You'll always be fat. The things that we hear, this is going to go wrong again anyway. I might as well eat the cake.
Well, that turning off the chatter, that's, part of, I would imagine, the kind of hypnotherapy you do as well, isn't it? To getting the client's mind quiet, turning off that inner narrative.
Right. But you have to acknowledge what the narrative is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can change that in a narrative. I dare say our methods are very, very similar in that respect. Part of the transition includes, altering that inner narrative, altering that conversation you have with yourself, and, instilling some self-belief, some self-confidence.
So you think the resistance is just, you have resistance to everything. If you've been doing X and you want intellectually to do Y, your subconscious is somehow feeling, let's stay here in the safe and now.
Yeah, because it perceives that change, even good change, as a threat. Even when we've got some good change coming up, like, for example, we're getting married, think of something really joyous, something that's supposed to be a really joyous time of our lives, or we're having a baby.
I think some of that is that in order to grasp this thing, you have to let go of that thing. If you're going to get married, you're no longer single. If you're going to have a baby, you're no longer a couple, usually, who takes away a certain amount of your freedom to do what you happen to want to do. So I think some of it's that isn't necessarily negative. It's just choosing between, you cannot have everything all at the same time.
No. I mean, somebody I know recently had a baby, and I was having a conversation with them, and they were talking about change. And I said, well, to my mind, I don't have children, but to my mind, the biggest change would be you can never again leave the house without thinking, what about the baby? You can't. I mean, at the moment now, if I want to just pop out to the shops and go and get something, I just pop out to the shops and get something. If I had a baby, it would be very, very different. You've either got to arrange for somebody to come and sit with your baby, or you pack everything up in these big bags.
It's the packing everything up. Grabbing the kid is easy, but all the things that go with it.
But it's like, that is change, isn't it? In the extreme. I mean, I must admit, I would find it incredibly overwhelming.
And it will go along for a good many years. It's not just the baby stage that is.
Yeah, till about 30, isn't it, apparently?
Seems to be getting more each year. But however, that's a slightly different issue. I suppose.
I mean, that resistance, it could be rooted in sort of like that fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Yes, or whatever change you make is going to be worse than what you've got already. That's the. I
mean, part of what I do, though, in my process is if someone is coming about weight loss, for example, is get them to really visualize what life will be like when they have reached that ideal weight, and really visualize it and describe it in detail. And in that way, we start to ingrain it in the subconscious. You've got to get it into their belief systems. But if you're talking about that thing where people are saying, no, I'll always be fat, or no, I've had the piece of cake, sod it, never mind. That's a change of mindset, isn't it? I mean, so I don't know if you've ever found this with people. They may have been dieting or losing weight for a month, and then they fall off the wagon. Usually that's their terms they'll use, and that they'll overeat for 2 or 3 days, and then they get to the stage of, oh, sod it, and they revert straight back to type. Whereas if you can alter the mindset, it's like, so, okay, you overate for 2 or 3 days. Doesn't undo the other 30. Jump back on.
And there's also a difference in, didn't expect this to all be about weight, but weight is kind of different because you know what you're supposed to eat intellectually, most people. And they know why they want to do it. So why is it knowing that you can't make the change? It's not you can't be thin, you can't stick to it. It's that message probably from childhood.
Possibly. And again, it's, there are so many things, aren't there? So many reasons why it can happen. I mean, everything that we've ever heard that's gone into us that's put negative thoughts in there or negative beliefs.
And remember that the positive ones. The positive ones go in there too. Don't blame parents for everything.
No, I never mentioned parents.
Well, we know that's where the person that brings you up is the person that gets a good few years to put those thoughts in.
I never mentioned parents. It could have been teachers. But I mean, weight's just one example, but there's all kinds of change that we could consciously want. But then we lack the confidence to go ahead with it, and the subconscious things there we feel holding us back. For example, somebody who is in a particular job, a particular career, but would really want to do something else and has the capability of doing so. Okay, that they have the capability to be able to train for it or to study for it.
You mean you can't hypnotize me and I can't go be an astronaut? It's like a little outside of the realm possibility.
No, but I could hypnotize you to explore the possibility a bit more and then realize why you can't be an astronaut.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
No, but it's, for example, somebody wants to, I don't know, let me think of something right off the top of my head. Say somebody's a nurse and she's decided she actually wants to be a lawyer instead. And she's got an aptitude for studying, and yes, she's perfectly capable of studying and getting that law degree, but something might be holding her back from saying, no, you can't be a lawyer, you can't be a lawyer. She may have some doubts that she couldn't do it, or he could have some doubts that they couldn't do it. You know, really consciously they want to do that, they're capable of doing that. So it's, I would say it's working out what those other inner things are which are holding them back, what that resistance is, what the cause of that resistance is.
Yeah. And there could be a million different reasons.
Yeah.
They may feel that they've presented themselves as a nurse for so long that they cannot present themselves as anything else. It could be that some deep recess of their mind, they believe that lawyers are charlatans. There's all sorts of things that it could be.
Yeah, and there's that imposter syndrome thing as well, though, isn't there? When you change careers.
Yep, and a lot of people have it when they're not even changing. I mean, they're just trying to grow within that career.
Yeah, I'm just casting my mind back now from when I made a big switch from being a jeweler to being a therapist. You know, the imposter monster got me many times.
But I think it would have gotten most people. When physicians, I certainly know that we end up, I hear a lot of doctors talking about it because, you know, they want to go into a leadership position or they want to open their own practice, some aspect of that career, even though they're excellent at what they do, they still feel, oh, people will start pointing fingers at me.
Yeah, saying, yeah. I mean, it's different scale, but that's how I felt switching from one career to another, especially late in life.
Actually, I told you yesterday, I was on a call, met several hundred people on the call, but we were asked to do an exercise regarding money.
Okay.
And so we were asked to just think about what we wanted and what were the little voices in our head that were telling us not to do it. And one person came up with getting too big for your britches. That is a huge one. You know, that sort of, I can't make more money than my dad did. Or, you know, that somehow people will be offended.
You're right. Again, well, those are subconscious things, aren't they?
Yeah.
I cast my mind back again, going back to when I was a jeweler. Okay. There was a particularly good, creative, excellent jeweler who I knew, a colleague within the trade, and I'm not going to say gender because I don't want to give anything away or identify anybody. They kept resisting promoting themselves and their work because their belief system didn't allow for self-promotion. And it was like, well, promote your products or find some other way because what you do is fantastic.
Hire somebody to do it.
Yeah, what you do is fantastic and unique and more people need to know about it. And they were 10 times a better jeweler than I would ever be. They know they were right up there in the league.
Was that a little imposter sneaking in there or just genuine?
No, there's genuine admiration. We have people that we aspire to be like when we're in whatever trade we are. And this was one of my heroes, as it were, in terms of their capability.
But if I can just pull you up, and you're entitled to edit this if you choose. You just said, I could never be.
Well, yeah.
Instead of, I'm miles from that goal right now is different from,
well, I'm not in that trade anymore, am I? So I couldn't.
Okay, now, yes. But you were evaluating him when you still were. Him or her when you still were. Yeah.
Okay. No edits. This is the uncut version.
This is how the subconscious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, analyzing my language patterns. There we go. Yeah. No. This is good. Actually. So okay. We've talked about the subconscious mind and change then, and understanding the resistance. What about cognitive?
What about it?
Well,
how could that possibly be useful?
Well, we can help with hypnosis in aligning our thoughts and beliefs to our capabilities. I'm just thinking of what we were just talking about then. Hypnosis can help with that, can't it?
It can help with most things.
if we want to do something, but we perhaps don't believe we can on one level, but we do on another, then hypnosis can certainly help bring all that together, can't it?
Together, yeah, that's true. And of course, that is really, it's not that your subconscious thinks, well, it would be nice to, but you haven't been able to so far, so let's not risk it. It's more the conversation it has. Yeah.
Okay. What about somebody then who, okay, well, no, we're not talking weight loss here. We're talking general health and fitness. Okay, somebody in a 9 to 5 job who knows that they're getting a bit of middle-age spread, for example, and they want to be healthier in themselves.
Not just 9 to 5, but sitting in a computer all day, you mean?
Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they've decided they want to just generally be healthier. They've already changed what they eat to a healthier mix, more coloured vegetables, extra fruit, that kind of thing. And they want to get moving a bit more. And they are physically capable of perhaps some light jogging or some very brisk walking, but they don't picture themselves doing that. They don't see that as being them. They don't see themselves as being that fit, toned person. Again, is that a resistance to change?
I don't know, because actually, is that just
Lack
this
of
is the way?
self-belief?
Yeah, but do you have to? Can you just want to walk because walking is good for you without necessarily a particular goal? Because if you say, well, if I walked more, I would lose a couple of pounds a week, because that's after all what you should aim for, a couple of pounds a week, and probably have to restrict your diet too a little bit in order to achieve that. But if you think of it just as, I want to walk more because walking more is good for me, rather than pinning it to a specific sort of, I want to walk because it helps me be less depressed. It helps me. There's so many good benefits, rather than having it. It's a silly thing to say, good benefits. Benefits are generally good.
That's why they're called benefits.
Yeah. Those are so strong that really, in and of themselves, I think those should be, rather than pinning, I'll lose 2 pounds. Because if you haven't lost 2 pounds at the end of the second, by the end of the second week, you're slightly inclined to say, oh, what's the point? And it's raining anyway, I don't want to go out.
It's quite, when we think about it, resistance to change, we all do it on some level, don't we? I think so.
I've even got my, I really want to trim my business expenses, so I'm changing my mailing address. It's on everything. As I look at, and it is a significant amount of money that I will save by doing this. And so I have started but now I've got to actually go through every single place where my address appears. And
change it.
Also makes me feel like, oh, why don't I just keep both of them for this year? Not a good move to have more expense rather than less.
Yeah, create yourself a load more work to do, though, letting everybody know change of address.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, addressing fear of change. How would you address it as a hypnotist?
Are you talking about something like, oh, my husband suddenly decided we're going to move to Australia? He hasn't, by the way. But, that kind of fear of change, or a change which you have decided you want in yourself?
A change that somebody has decided they want. I'm just trying to think of one that could be a situation for you with one of your clients. Somebody came to you and said, Denise, I've got a job in the next state, so I need to drive again. I can drive, but I don't particularly like driving. I don't want to drive. Yeah.
Yeah, that is quite frequent. Well, first of all, you could brainstorm about how you can get places without driving yourself, whether it's a possibility.
Let's assume they had to drive themselves, though, and it's a necessary change, but they have a fear of it. How would you?
Well, there are a lot of different aspects to driving. Is it just they don't want to take the time? Is it that they're scared of traffic? But either way, I actually worked with several people for driving fears. And you just have to start to imagine enjoying the journey.
That's funny, actually.
Works quite well.
As a quick segue, and not a plug for my columns, but I was writing about road rage this week in one of the newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up to the Christmas season.
Exactly, right. So it's lovely to think of driving on a nice spring morning, but the idea of driving right now, with the weather changing, with crazy people on the roads, shouldn't use that term. But
no.
with people on the road who are single-minded in what they're
angry.
Yeah, angry too. Yeah,
angry people. Yeah. No, it's what I said was, though, set the mood right to begin with. Play some relaxing music when you get in the car. Don't have radio, wazzo on playing, fast house music or something like that while you're driving. It's not going to calm the mind, is it?
Yeah. But do you use that as an anchor?
No,
I mean,
no,
I don't want them to relax to the point they fall asleep while they're driving. That's not a good
but
idea.
we just need to be relaxed and calm, though, don't we? We don't
Mm-hmm.
want fast music which instills a faster heartbeat and that kind of thing. We don't want that while we're driving. You know, house music, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Which is actually why instrumental is good.
Now, the other thing, of course, with road rage at this time of year is parking rage. That's an even bigger one.
Oh, yeah. Which makes me think of green tomatoes. Yeah, it's a nice. I haven't driven for years. I get about the world quite well, thanks to ride sharing, as they call it, and
Do you actually mean you can drive?
I drove for years.
Well, that's a new one on me. Because you've always said I don't drive.
I don't drive. I did drive. I came to America. Do you realize how much having a car is part of the equation? Yeah.
I didn't realize you can drive.
Well, no, I can't because I wouldn't trust myself to drive, and I don't want to be hypnotized at 70 to start driving. It would be silly. But
well, you're resisting change, isn't it? No, you're resisting change.
No, I made the change when I stopped driving.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if there was some reason that I had to, I know how the mechanics of steering an automatic car are.
Yeah.
But why do people get frustrated? Is it because they want to park in a place that's the perfect place and some other idiot chose to have it as well? Or is it we have handicap parking. A lot of people who have less than physical handicaps tend to use them. What kind of rage happens back over there? Well,
that kind of thing, people parking in spaces which they shouldn't be using, i.e. disabled spaces or parent and baby spaces, that kind of thing. But one of my biggest gripes, something that's sure to get my heckles on my neck, is when some idiot parks across two parking spaces and takes spaces. That makes my blood boil. It's just inconsiderate.
Yeah. Oh no, you don't know what the parking situation was when they pulled into that space. They might not have had good choice available to them if everybody in the row is doing that.
Yeah. But when you get somebody in a large car parked across two spaces, it's the arrogance of it. I think you've got to squeeze into the space. Everybody can only get into one space. But yeah, parking rage over here. Usually people fighting over spaces, inconsiderate parking, people wanting to park nearer to the shop door when it's chucking it down with rain. That kind of thing. But generally a shortage of spaces over here. I mean, our town centres tend to have expensive car parks. So people may try and park on single yellows on the street or other places where they're able to park, and then you get road rage there, or parking rage.
Or parking ticket rage, I would imagine.
Parking ticket rage. But yeah, it's... we're diverted there, haven't we, onto road rage. So okay, what about if somebody came to you for change then, and you helped them to change?
Yeah.
What about maintaining it? I don't want to go back to weight loss because that's the obvious one to go to. What about
generic? I've had several clients that they get, well, what do I do if it comes back? Then you've got the audio. Use the audio, and if it's not working for you, just give me a call. I often will have just a call with somebody who think, oh, it happened again. The thing happened again. Is it going to come back full force? No, you're aware of it, and you know that you can be the way you were before.
Yeah, don't you think they're planting their own post-hypnotic suggestions though by saying, what if it comes back? I'm thinking fears and phobias now, particularly. I say to them, it won't.
That's good. It won't. I haven't had it happen yet, but maybe I have to think about my language when I'm talking. But the main thing is that somebody can always contact me again.
Oh, absolutely.
While I'm breathing, at least. I'm assuming there'll be other hypnotists available to them if I'm not around. But yeah, just knowing that it's interesting too, though, 'cause if you make one change and you realize that you're capable of it, you can make so many other ones. And you don't need hypnosis to get to the other ones necessarily.
No, because I think, I mean, my personal thoughts on this are, when you've helped somebody achieve some kind of change that they wanted to achieve, that is significant to them, in the process of helping them achieve that, you know, the hypnosis, the sessions, the pre-talks, everything adds to their mental resilience anyway, and to their mental strength. And yeah, it helps them realize that, yes, I'm capable of doing this. And I think it invigorates them to take on other things and to do other things.
I've done this, I can do that.
Yeah. That's exactly it. That's my feeling on it. And I think, again, once people have battled through that resistance to change on one thing, they can battle through it on other things. And, you know, that's...
And the battle gets easier.
Yeah, but also that's when somebody says to me, "But how does it work?" Because we're talking about hypnosis. That's the element of, well, I couldn't really describe exactly how it works, but you'll know when it is working.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, it's slightly different for everybody. And it's also sort of part of the thought process here is getting rapport before you don't walk into a hypnotist and say, I want to move to Australia, as I like travel, and, you know, have a hypnosis. Just you have to have a relationship. You have to, there's some, why do you want to move to Australia? It's a long way away.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have a connection with the client to do any kind of meaningful work with them, I think.
Well, yeah, because why would their subconscious listen to a voice that they don't feel in sync with?
Exactly. That's why with all my sessions, before I do the full trance session with them, that's why I give them the recording to listen to first, to get them used to my voice. And I explain to them that very reason. You know, I always say we're having this conversation now, and logically this is what you want to do. But subconsciously you may find some resistance. I want your subconscious to get used to hearing my voice. Listen to this recording every night for the next week or fortnight.
Right.
And I explain that to them. I also, do you use music on some of your recordings, don't you? Yeah, I do. And I also explain to them that the music they hear is the same music they'll hear the next time they come in to see me. And their mind will instantly recognize it as something they associate with safety and being in their own bed.
Yeah, the difference there is I only use the music on recordings. I don't use it in real life. Yeah. I want other
but again, I suppose thinking
certain
about it,
number of things I can deal with at one time.
Just thinking about it again, though, these are things I do to help them with that resistance to change, without giving it a title before we started talking today. But yeah, it's all about
that's hypnosis. Everything that we do is change.
It's change work, isn't it?
Yeah.
To use an expression you see dotted about here and there. Yeah.
All right. One of my major issues, you've lost your earplug again. One of my major issues when I go shopping is I hate self-checkout, and sometimes it's the only option. And I really, if I've got one thing, fine, but if it's more than that, I hate it. I'm very rarely do I actually stay and use it. I have many times walked out.
I've done it in a certain, we can't mention brand names, can we? I did it in a certain, I did it in Marks and Spencer's. Okay, he said to me, can you use the self-checkout? I said, no, if I want to use self-checkouts, I'll go shop at Tesco Express. Other brands are available. But I don't like self-checkouts for many reasons. Having said that, I mean, we're doing the full range of supermarkets now. If I go to Aldi, I don't want to be stuck behind somebody with a week's worth of shopping in their trolley when I've only grabbed a sandwich in there in the lunch break. So I'm glad they've got self-checkouts as well.
Yeah.
They do have the uses, I think, for a quick, you know,
but you have you have the choice. You use the self-checkout or you stand in line. I'll stand in line. I won't be happy, but I don't, you know, if they've given me, even if it's, you know, 57 self-checkouts and one teller, I would prefer that. But if I've got one thing, I probably would go through. But now, is this ruining my life? No. But it is I don't know where that's coming from. So I'm not quite sure how. Change. Well, it's resistance to change, but for what end? Because there's usually something about, I'm comfortable with a teller.
Maybe you just like to be spoken to by people and deal with people rather than a machine.
Or make sure I think the first place I noticed them doing that more was buying a ticket for the train, getting fewer and fewer ticket boxes and more places where you've got to buy. Yeah, that I don't want to buy the wrong thing.
Well, talking of resisting change, there was a huge hoo-ha over here just a few weeks ago, for that very reason. They were going to be closing down all the ticket offices at the train stations and making it all online or ticket machine only. And there was a huge outcry, a huge resistance to change, and it won. They're not closing. They're not closing the ticket offices now. So resisting change can be a good thing. Let me ask you something, Denise, then about supermarkets. Okay.
They're different here than
bit of hypnosis. So cast your mind back, go back in time. Okay, go back, because you were brought up in England.
I was indeed.
Okay, and you're always announcing your age on here. So you'll remember when the self-service supermarkets opened. Did you resist that change?
I don't remember self-service in the UK. I only, coming back and visiting when things were changed, but they were faster to go here. No, when I was growing up, you went to a shop and you stood at a counter and asked people to get you X, Y, and Z, not
exactly. So I was about to say, so when it went self-service, there must have been a huge resistance to that.
I don't know. There's a certain amount of that that's quite useful, I think, because you can look, that one's cheaper. So that overrides, I think, this. So the visualized change of getting something cheaper than this one. I can buy a double size one for only 1.5 times the price. So yeah.
So what I'm thinking is there must have been a huge resistance to the change when it happened from from counter service to self-service in the supermarkets. But people 10 years younger than me won't ever remember shops where everything was served over the counter. Even the corner shops are self-service these days, aren't they? Apart from perhaps tobacco and liquor, which is behind the counter. But the smallest of corner shops are self-service these days. There must have been a huge resistance then, but we got used to it. And I think it will be the same with these self-checkouts.
Oh, yeah. I don't think anybody from the previous generation, millennials, are not particularly bothered by it because they probably don't remember it not being there. But yeah. I think we should talk very briefly, because the season is coming to a close. This is the last time we'll be here in sort of real life. We have one last person who is not a hypnotist herself, but has had close ties to the use of hypnotism for many years. And
she's a doctor.
Yeah, and she's a doctor, yeah. And so she'll be on next week. And then
next week's episode is 2 doctors and 1 hypnotherapist. So that's next week to look forward to. And then, of course, like you say, we've got next season as well. So for today, though, it's time for us to say tatty bye to our viewers and listeners.
Okay. And by the time this goes out, Thanksgiving will be over, and the ramping up to Hanukkah and Christmas will be in full force.
All right. See you on the next one.
Okay. Bye, dear.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
If you found this episode useful, you can apply for free continuing professional development or CME credits using the link provided in the show notes. Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.